And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Tuesday, September 10th. We have a lot to cover on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comment recognized, go to the $ icon in the chat. This will help put out a super chat on the live broadcast, which I will acknowledge any comments or questions you may have. And it just makes the show more interactive, more lively between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us. And also the other way to help out the show besides that way is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, gsmcpodcast.net. And like I said, we appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day as we put out content each and every day. So let's get into what we are going to discuss for today as my camera decides to act up on me. So we're going to start off the show. We'll talk about last night's game between the 49ers and the Jets. A lot to talk about there with Aaron Rodgers making his return to the field. And Christian McCaffrey also did not play in this game, and it looked like he was going to play. I was reading something that said he was confident that he was going to play, but ended up not playing, and Jordan Mason got the start at running back, so we'll talk about that. Then, in the second part of the show, we'll talk about the Dolphins-Jaguars game. We'll talk about the Tyreek Hill incident before the game. I'll give you my thoughts on that. Then, in the third part of the show, we'll talk about Jim Harbaugh getting his first win as the Chargers head coach. We'll talk about J.K. Dobbins' performance as well. In the fourth part of the show, we'll get into talking about the Texans-Colts game, the performances by both C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson. And then in the final part of the show, we'll talk about the Giants. We'll talk about their performance on Sunday. I know I brought it up a little bit towards the end of the show yesterday, but we'll go into more detail on that at the end of the show here. And there's still more stuff to cover from week one that we'll get into tomorrow as well. But that's what we got on tap for today. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about the Jets 49ers game. So, of course, I was locked into this game mainly because of Aaron Rodgers. And to see, now, obviously, if this was any other game, of course, I'm going to be locked in. But Aaron Rodgers being back, that is what I wanted to focus my attention on. How was he going to perform? And when we got the news about Christian McCaffrey being out for this game, I was like, okay, that really helps the Jets out a lot. And this could definitely be a tight game. And I thought it was going to be, just because the Jets defense is very good, and I thought they were going to at least keep the 49ers in check to an extent. And even without McCaffrey, that was not the case last night. The 49ers dominated this game. Jordan Mason dominated this game. Undrafted running back, and was kind of like the third running back on the depth chart because you had Elijah Mitchell, but now he's out for the season. So Jordan Mason got the start, and he did not disappoint. 28 carries, 147 yards, and a touchdown. JioSaavn also had a rushing touchdown in this game. Now, Jordan Mason would have had 2 touchdowns in this game, but it got called back, and that's what led to the JioSaavn rushing touchdown. Brock Purdy was efficient, didn't really do much, didn't really have to do too much. The 49ers just ran the ball down the Jets' throat, like I said. He went 19-29 for 231 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Was sacked a couple of times. Juwan Jennings got banged up in this game, but he still ended up being their leading receiver. Caught all of his targets, 5 targets, 5 receptions for 64 yards. JioSaavn, 5 receptions for 54 yards. George Kittle, 4 for 40. Brandon Ayuk only had 2 for 28. Dropped a touchdown pass from Brock Purdy. And the 49ers only had 1 sack, and that was by Leonard Floyd. But, like I said, the offense really didn't have to, Brock Purdy didn't really have to be heroic because the running game was really working. Like I said, Jordan Mason, props to him, an unbelievable game. And now let's get into the Jets side of things. So, Was Aaron Rodgers great last night? No. He was not great. But I thought he played better than the numbers were to indicate here. So he finished the game going 13 of 21, 167 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. That interception was not his fault. That was deflected and picked off. The 49ers player on Garrett Wilson deflected it, and it ended up getting picked off. So I don't really blame Aaron Rodgers for that. And that was picked off by Flanagan Fowles on that. And that was in the second half. And, it was a close... it was 16-7 at the half. But I thought... So the first 2 drives of the game, one of them was a punt. The second one resulted in a fumble. Rodgers was trying to avoid a sack, and he flicked it to Breece Hall, and Fred Warner made a great play on it. He knocked the ball out. 49ers recovered. But the Jets' defense held up. That drive resulted in a field goal. Jake Moody also had a great game as well. But then the next drive, this was the third drive of the game for the Jets. They went 12 plays, 70 yards, 7 minutes of time of possession. Rodgers hit it. This is a play where you're like, yeah, Rodgers has still got it. He hit the back shoulder to Garrett Wilson for 16 yards on 3rd and 8. Another 14 yards to Garrett Wilson, 13 to Breece Hall. And then, a couple more passes to Garrett Wilson, and then Breece Hall took it into the end zone from 3 yards out. And the Jets were up 7-3, and you thought, all right, here we go. Look at the Jets right now. And then the 49ers, they responded, kicking a field goal. So, yeah, it was 7-6 after the first quarter. But things kind of changed after that. The Jets punted on their next 2 possessions. The 49ers, they got their first touchdown. That was the Deebo Samuel touchdown. They ran it down their throat on that drive. A lot of Jordan Mason. And then the Jets punted, and like I said, it was 16-7 at the half. Jake Moody kicked another field goal, 31 yards, from 31 yards out. 49ers opened up the second half with a touchdown drive. That was 7 minutes and 18 seconds. That made it 23-7, and then the interception happened. Then the 49ers kicked another field goal. They went 8 plays, 26 yards on that, following the interception. And then the Jets ended up scoring a touchdown on their drive to make it 26-13. It was on a free play. Rodgers hit Allen Lazard for 26 yards, and then he got a free play that led to a touchdown by Allen Lazard from 36 yards out. I'm surprised they didn't blow that play dead, because Leonard Floyd was really offsides. But they didn't blow it dead. Rodgers was able to cash in on that, and that made it 26-13. And then the Niners, again, answered with another field goal. Rodgers did get taken out of the game towards the end. Tyrod Taylor led a touchdown drive. I said the Jets would score 20 points. They ended up scoring 19, but, that was in garbage time. And the Niners, I said 24. It ended up being 32. So, yeah, overall, it wasn't great for the Jets, specifically for their defense. That's what really surprised me. Their defense did not play well in this game, and also the 49ers dominated time of possession. They had the ball for almost 40 minutes, 38 minutes and 40 seconds to the Jets' 21 minutes and 20 seconds. 49ers just dominated time of possession, and they finished with 401 total yards to the Jets' 266. So, look, I really can't say that Aaron Rodgers played bad in this game. Again, was he great? No. But there were some things to like from Aaron Rodgers. And also the offensive line held up in this game, which is huge, especially going up against a pass rush like that. He had his moments, but still, it wasn't great. And the Jets' schedule does lighten up. They're taking on the Titans next week, and their offense looked horrible. Although Tony Pollard had a good game, the Jets' run defense has got to get their act together, because that was horrendous. Again, that could also just mean, well, you played the 49ers, who are one of the best teams in the NFL. So, you got the Titans, you got the Patriots, the Broncos. There's winnable games coming up. So, I understand they got dominated in this game, but if you can win your next 3, all will be right in the world. But I do have concerns with that defense because I really don't know what to say. Also, Sauce Gardner got banged up in this game. He was on the sidelines, on a play where, when he collided with, not really collided, but, he was going after Deebo Samuel, and that's kind of what led to him being taken out of the game. Well, yeah, you could say collided, whatever. But he was out of the game, and, we're still waiting on what the deal is with Hassan Reddick. Is he coming back? What's going on? But it was a bad performance all around by the defense. And Rodgers barely had the ball. They really couldn't get into a rhythm because the 49ers just dominated time of possession in this game. And it was impressive that they did that without Christian McCaffrey. And Brandon Ayuk didn't have a big game. So the 49ers are going to be really good again this year, which we all figured. Now, I don't have them going to the Super Bowl. I got the Lions, but again, I would not be surprised if this team makes it back because they're just that good. And I would love to see those players win a championship because I've said it over and over again, they deserve it. But look, the 49ers, they did their thing. They take on the Vikings next week. The Jets take on the Titans. But my biggest takeaway from this game is how bad the Jets defense looked. Because the reason why I have the Jets winning as many games as I have them winning, along with winning the division, is because of their defense. And if their defense is going to play like that, then it's going to be a rough one for the Jets. But again, it's against the 49ers. So, and I thought Aaron Rodgers did okay. He wasn't great, but he's still got some left in the tank. And if the Jets could take that and the defense can maybe get better because it looked like they just were not prepared for this game, you know what? The Jets are going to be okay. Now, if this was against a much inferior opponent, then yeah, then you really could be, waving some red flags. But again, it's against the 49ers, but it was without Christian McCaffrey too. Like they made Jordan Mason look like this, but it's the 49ers. It's the 49ers, but also it's Jordan Mason. Like if it was Christian McCaffrey, like okay, but it was against Jordan Mason. So, and that falls on the coach. Robert Saleh is a defensive guy, and your defense did not play well last night. So they got some things that they got to correct, and hopefully they do that. Like I said, playing the Titans, whose offense was not great over the weekend. So we'll see what happens, but let me know what you guys think. I mean, I could talk about this game for a while, but, we got to move on here. But, yeah, let me know what you guys think about this game. What were your takeaways from it? How do you think Rodgers did? What were your thoughts on Jordan Mason's performance last night? So we're going to take our first break. When we come back, we'll talk about Tyreek Hill and the Dolphins. We'll talk about the Dolphins-Jaguars game as well as what went on with Tyreek Hill before the game as well. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.